All right, man, peace. So, brother, this is going to be volume 2 in this series that I recently started called Tell the Truth, Shame the Devil. And this edition will be featuring the superstar quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, Mr. Drew Brees, who recently has gotten himself into a bit of quote-unquote hot water. Or maybe I should amend my statement. He didn't really get himself into anything. His words have been contorted to imply that he is quote-unquote homophobic because he decided that he was going to film a commercial trying to espouse some of his quote-unquote Christian beliefs in association with an organization known as Focus on the Families, which allegedly is a quote-unquote homophobic organization. So by osmosis, Drew Brees is being associated with the concept of homophobia, which is another form of a shaming tactic that's utilized by the cultural Marxists that are trying to engineer this society, or who are in the process of engineering this society, to shame people into approving of that life choice. So that's why I tell you, brothers, that in these last days, things are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. There are going to come moments in your life where you're on the job in corporate America, and they're going to ask you what you believe in or what you adhere to when it comes to the quote-unquote alternative lifestyle known as homosexuality and lesbianism. And you will be left out there on a branch because most of the Negroes in corporate America are liberal. They have no problem selling out. And when I say selling out, I'm talking about the spiritual self. They don't really understand who they are, and they worship themselves. So to make a long story short, get accustomed to being by yourself. Do not count on someone just because they're so-called black to co-sign you or agree with you. I did a video a long time ago about Mr. Tracy McGrady, the Hall of Fame NBA player who at one time was on an NBA panel with Michelle Beadle. She tried to embarrass him and emasculate him by getting him to conform to one of these social media challenges called the Hot Pepper Challenge, which allegedly was for ALS, to raise funds for the research into Lou Gehrig's disease, so on and so forth, a neurological disease. And that's what they do on the internet. They concoct all these silly stunts to perform, which supposedly are meant to subsidize research into something that's serious, but it's really just nonsense. Well, to make a long story short, Tracy McGrady turned down Michelle Beadle's offer to eat a hot pepper for ALS. And at first, both Tracy McGrady and Jalen Rose, who's married to Molly Karam, decided that they were not going to eat the hot pepper. But since Jalen Rose has no real backbone and he's a conformist to the dominance of the feminine principle, he gave in and left Tracy McGrady out there on the branch by himself. I say all that to say this. Once again, become comfortable with being isolated. Become comfortable with being perceived as different or someone who is strange. They might even call you inflammatory terms in these last days, like a terrorist. Who the hell knows? Just for having your own ideas and not following after the sheep, after the masses. The bigger the crowd, the dumber the crowd. But just getting back to Drew Brees. He made a statement in a commercial, which is associated with this organization Focus on the Families, which has decided that they're not going to co-sign homosexual marriage. So supposedly now that means that Drew Brees is a homophobe. And notice, like I stated, they use these terms like homophobia, misogynist, chauvinist, words of that type to try to shame people into believing that these different classes of people are quote unquote equal, which is just meant to once again accentuate the understanding that they don't view you as a flesh and blood human being in this society. They view you as a monetizable asset. That's why they don't want you to assign yourself a gender. They don't want you to assign yourself a race. All you are is a number, your social security number or your birth certificate number. That's it. It's about how much money you can generate for this economy because they view you as cattle. And these idiots, these super liberals on TV, they don't understand that. And once again, when I use the term liberal, I'm not speaking politically, I'm speaking ideologically. But let's just pay very close attention to how these three buffoons here tried to attack Drew Brees and how he basically capitulated because he's worried about the backlash. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
This is a bad situation right now. A lot of people are claiming that he's homophobic, that he's anti-LGBTQ over a video he did for an organization called Focus on the Family.
Once again, brothers, as most of us know or should know by now, the terms homophobic or homophobia mean to be in fear of homosexuals, which seems to run contrary to the overall sentiment that's being promoted, that being that there are certain people who detest homosexuals so much that they want to oppress them. If you fear something, that means that you're worried about it overtaking you in some way due to a dominant aura or energy, and that they're going to reign supreme over you. to the level where it incites you to run and hide. Not so much that it would incite you to castigate their life choice or their lifestyle. As we already know, in Western society, it is illegal to kill someone because of their sexual preference or sexual orientation or what have you. Now, on the contrary, if someone simply decides that they don't agree with someone's alternative lifestyle choice, that's their right. But you are going to be attacked as we near the end of this kingdom, and they're going to use two major forces to address the so-called black men who stand up. They're going to use super liberal Negroes like the one in the middle box here, Mr. Van Lathan, and they're also going to use the liberal black woman. And how they're going to address you or try to attack you is to make you believe that the homosexual movement is hand in hand and confederate with the liberation of so-called black people. That's the main form that they're going to try to take to shame you into adhering to the notion that being a homosexual or a lesbian is beneficial for our society. And when I say our society, I'm not just talking about Western society. I'm talking about the so-called black community.
Everybody knows Drew Brees is a very religious guy. Super religious, hardcore Christian. Good for you.
He could be a quote-unquote hardcore Christian. He also could be a straight-up Luciferian / Mason who just acts like he's a so-called Christian to promote a certain image about himself. Who knows? Either way, he's a member or an alleged member of the so-called Christian church, which is just the veneration of Asar, Aset, and Heru on a low level or with a low level of understanding. But this could all, once again, this could all be a veneer, because many of these top level athletes, some of them are MK assets, some of them are monarch programmed, some of them are Satanists. So who knows what the real deal is. I did a video about Drew Brees a while ago stating that it was very interesting that he happened to start having many big seasons with the New Orleans Saints right after his mother strangely passed away.
For Focus on the Family, about his favorite Bible verse for an event called National Bring Your Bible to School Day. This is the video, and I'm going to explain after you see the video why there's a backlash against this.
Hey guys, Drew Brees here. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we live by faith, not by sight. So I want to encourage you to live out your faith on Bring Your Bible to School Day and share God's love with friends. You're not alone.
Right. So it seemed innocent enough until people realized that it was posted by Focus on the Family, according to multiple websites, multiple media outlets, including QWERTY, which is a pro-gay website. It said,
in order for you to be that ardently in favor of that lifestyle and the tentacles that are being used and extended out to the public at large to promote that lifestyle, there has to be a part of you that is either homosexual or has experienced that homosexual choice in the past. It just makes no sense that you would be so fervent about pushing what those people do on everyone else unless you're invested in it in a substantive way. The website is called QWERTY. They're letting you know that they don't feel right about themselves. When you say that something is queer, that means that it's strange, bizarre, deviant, freakish, nefarious. Once again, look up the word queer for yourself to get an understanding of what that term actually means and the fact that that demographic has chosen to apply that term or that word to themselves. What are they telling you? And why is it that so many members of this society or so many components of this society are trying to force that mindset on the masses at large? Could it be because they know that you will become even more destabilized, more confused, more distracted, and therefore they can bring in even more Luciferian ideologies? Because once you embrace that life choice, which is a heavy component of Luciferianism, the veneration of the same-sex union, and when I say the same-sex union, I'm speaking about sexually, and then on top of that, you add the orgiastic component to it. That's what's known as sex magic. They utilize orgies in the Bacchanalian mystery school system because they believe that it creates certain energies that they can use to make many of their spells more potent or more powerful.
Focus on the Family supports gay conversion therapy and religious freedom laws. They are also anti-gay marriage and anti-same-sex couples being able to adopt and other stuff like that.
Which is their right.
We're going after Drew Brees. Why would you associate yourself, even if you're just having this message with the Bible verse, with an organization that is so aggressively anti-gay? So,
aggressively anti-gay would mean that they were attacking homosexual people with guns and knives and trying to force them into capitulating into a quote-unquote heterosexual lifestyle, really a natural lifestyle. Once again, the term queer means unnatural or aberrant or deviant. Look it up for yourself. This is what they call themselves. So this person here at the top left, Evan Rosenblum, or whatever his name is trying to espouse a certain ideology, that being the propagation of the implementation of an unnatural life choice, and he's being an agent of chaos for it. Why is that? Supposedly he's Jewish. In the Torah, it speaks against homosexuality and lesbianism. So it's very clear that he does not adhere to it or believe in it. We already know, and you can tell by the facial expression of that idiot in the middle box, Van Lathan, that he's about to go fully woke. That's why I tell you, brothers, when these cats speak about being woke or being quote unquote awake as they view it to be on the internet, they're talking about Luciferianism. They're not talking about what it's going to mean to improve our nation of people, so-called black people. They don't really care about that. They use that as a facade to promote what they're actually about.
So a lot of outlets wrote very scathing articles about him and this association, and Drew Brees moments ago posted a video explaining why he did this video and defending himself and explaining why he believes he's not homophobic. Watch this.
I live by two very simple Christian fundamentals, and that is love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Drew Brees just quoted Matthew, the 22nd chapter, roundabout from verse 37 to 39. And those are quotes, as most of you brothers know, from Leviticus 19 and 18, where it tells us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And from Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, where it tells us to love the Most High with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our strength. So everything that we see in the so-called New Testament is really just an addendum to the so-called Old Testament. It's all congruent. And what people in the so-called Christian church cannot grasp is the congruency. That's how you know that there's something missing in their overall philosophy. But that's okay, because it fulfills prophecy. The point being is this: Drew Brees does not have the courage to stand up for his beliefs, because if he did, he would acknowledge that throughout the scriptures, the homosexual life choice is castigated. Since he quoted from 2 Corinthians and 1 Corinthians 6 and 9, it tells us about the abusers of themselves with mankind, talking about homosexuals. It talks about the effeminate, speaking about catamites or man-boy love. These are all things that get excoriated in the scriptures. But because he's a quote-unquote Christian, really just a toy Christian, someone who's scared to lose what he has in his mind, he has to bow down to the quote-unquote LGBTQIA army. And that's why they get stronger and stronger, because people are not willing to stand up.
The first one is very self-explanatory. The second one, love your neighbor as yourself. What does that mean to me? That means love all, respect all, and accept all.
That's nowhere in the scriptures that you have to accept everybody. People have to understand that they have to come through the straight gate. If you choose not to come through the straight gate, that's your business. But I don't have to accept that. Nor does anybody else. People have the right to do what they want in this society. You keep the laws of the land, but you don't have the right to try to make other people feel and think how you want them to feel and think about your life choice, which for the most part is an offshoot of a very damaged childhood.
That is actually how I live my life. That is what I try to do with my family, with my teammates, with people in my community, with my friends, all people, no matter your race, your color, your religious preference, your sexual orientation.
So in other words, so you've been officially emasculated.
Americans need to know exactly what these organizations that they're aligned with or doing business with are supporting. This is why This is why total transparency in these things are needed. There's a possibility that Drew Brees didn't even know. I'm not saying that that's what it was, but there's a possibility he had no clue what the organization was doing to a specific member.
I think
This idiot Van Lathan acts as if Drew Brees was a member of the Ku Klux Klan and didn't know it. It's very clear that he knew what the organization was about. He just didn't think that it would come back to bite him to this degree, because a lot of these homosexuals, they're out and about trying to see who they can attack, because they know that if they can get stars and celebrities, especially in the sports and entertainment world, to bow down to them, that's going to have a trickle-down effect on their fan base.
Trick
tricky to be aware of everything or everyone that you associate with, everything they've ever said. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. It's also tricky to keep track sometimes of everything that you're putting in your body. But guess what? If you use a supplement and you get popped for a performance-enhancing drug, that's on you.
This fool just compared a performance-enhancing drug to Drew Brees' beliefs, or alleged beliefs.
At the bottom line of this is that Drew Brees put his public face behind an organization that preaches hate. That's all Drew.
Once again, brothers, you're going to notice that the term hate and equality will be open-ended words that will be used to initiate an attack on those who do not adhere to super liberal beliefs or ideas or ideologies. If you don't believe that everyone should come together in a big pansexual mass, they'll claim that you're hateful and that you don't believe in equality, quote unquote. So the only way to avert this, or to try to change this over, contort it, is to stand up for yourself and not be concerned with who you're going to alienate. Because at the end of the day, when we have to stand before the Most High and be judged for our works, we're not going to be able to say, well, the reason why I conformed or why I bowed down is because I needed to fit in here or there. That's why I state, man, corporate America is not for the so-called black man. It's really not. Not to digress. And for those of you cats out there who might not see this as a big deal, you'll figure it out near the end, when things go so far that they're going to try to make you believe that everyone is better off being a quote-unquote pansexual than a heterosexual. And that might sound far off. That might sound like some type of hyperbole, but it's going to come.
Once he says, hey, I didn't mean anything by it, this is what I really believe, and my message was this and solely this, then do you take him then do you let him go and say, okay?
But why couldn't you have done that with a different organization or with no organization at all?
But you can't.
Who are you to dictate which organization he should align himself with, as long as that organization is operating according to the laws of the land?
Ring the bell. So he already worked with them and the ad's already out there. Right. But now...
And look, I'm sure that certain cats are going to say the reason why they're saying this is because they work for Harvey Levin, who's a homosexual. Of course, that's a part of it. But the way in which they're arguing their attempts at a point is very clear that those are their real beliefs. Two cannot walk together unless they be in agreement.
He's felt this criticism, the backlash has happened. Now he has tried to explain himself. I'm saying, now does he get the pass, and do we say, okay, Drew, we take you at your word, that you don't have it in your heart?
I don't think that Drew Brees is a bad guy.
He doesn't seem like a hateful person.
But however, I'm not gay.
Allegedly.
The reality is that while Drew Brees gets to make a mistake, crawfish from the mistake, or whatever, and say whatever.
What mistake did he make? I'm trying to figure out, what mistake did he make? Is he associated with an organization, a group, or a corporation that is breaking the law?
There are people who, when these issues they're confronted with them, their lives are hanging in the balance, and they're sick of people making mistakes like this. For sure.
Whose lives are hanging in the balance that you're speaking about? Are you talking about homosexuals, Van Lathan? Is there some type of movement to kill homosexuals other than what they're doing to themselves through the AIDS virus and other STDs?
For sure. And I think what a lot of gay people would like to see Drew
is everyone conform to them and make them feel less crazy. Always understand something, brothers. There are two ways for mentally unhealthy people to feel better about themselves. Number one is to confront their issues and hopefully come to terms with their past. Number two is to get everyone around them to embrace the same psychoses and the same problems that they have, so that they can feel like they're a part of the overall collective. Because the main issue with the homosexual is that they felt like they were ostracized from society because they had a spirit on them to want to engage in a quote-unquote romantic relationship with someone of the same gender. So they felt like outcasts. Now with the promotion of this life choice in this society, their numbers are growing. So they're now able to convince themselves that they're quote-unquote regular, despite the fact that we know that the depression rate is far higher amongst them, especially amongst the quote-unquote transsexuals, or those who are geared towards the gender reassignment surgery. So it's very clear that they have issues. They want to bring the overall collective into the morass with them so that they can feel better.
do now is work with gay rights organizations and put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. Well, that's probably where we'll find out what he truly believes.
You're truly for equality, and you're truly for working with, you know, all people from all different backgrounds.
Once again, brothers, the term equality is a Trojan horse term. In the story of the Trojan horse, the Greeks, they sought to enter the city of Troy with a perceived gift, but inside was death. That term equality, it sounds nice. It sounds like a great thing for everyone. But underneath that facade are a lot of insidious doctrines that they want to pollute people with.
In the wake of this situation, I think it would be nice to see you working with some work. Exactly.
These fools are actually saying that Drew Brees, who's a so-called Christian, should be working with gay rights groups, when the Bible, the book that he believes in, condemns homosexuality from Genesis to Revelation. But once again, this is why I call this series Tell the Truth, Shame the Devil. Whenever you tell the truth, you're going to bring out demons in other people around you. Hell, when you tell the truth to yourself, you're going to cast out demons within yourself. And it's also going to cause the people around you to dislike you and to even be emboldened to come against you. And when that time comes, you have to be mentally, spiritually, and physically prepared. It just is what it is. But like I state, people who are under demonic possession, they can only heal themselves or feel better about themselves one of two ways. Number one is either to have the demon cast off of them by embracing the truth, or number two, by trying to project their demon onto other people, making society at large accept that same demon so that they now feel like a part of the overall collective. It's very similar to the concept of drug users. Most drug users are embarrassed about their addiction. They don't have the strength to quit, so what they try to do is tell those around them, it's not that big a deal, you should try it sometime. They want to pollute you in the same way that they were polluted. But anyway, peace.